All righty. Then let's call this meeting to order at 1:05 p.m.
And I'm gonna throw the chat up here. Yeah. Oh, this is just, so sorry. This is just ugly the way that I'm doing this.
Okay. Anyway, our meeting's been called to order. First thing on the agenda, number one, you all should have received the agenda in your email. And if not, those are the minutes up there. I'm sure Ruth will be putting it up here on the screen in just a moment, so.
The agenda?
Yeah, there it is, yes. Okay. So I guess, are there any additions to the agenda that we need to do?
Not for me. Does anybody else have any additions?
Not seeing anything. Okay, so I'll take a motion for approval of the agenda.
Motion.
Scott, motion from Scott to approve the agenda, a second.
I'll second.
Second here. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to the minutes from the April 12th meeting, which again, should have been in your email, and if not, Ruth is putting them up on the screen.
Did check for spelling. I don't know if anybody else.
I think at the top, they're dated 2021.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Good call, Julia.
Fixing that right now. Thank you.
Another casualty of cut and paste.
Sonia, should we change your name back for that month as well?
Sure, yeah.
Any other corrections to the minutes from the April 12th, 2022 meeting? Not hearing anything, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes. So moved. A second?
Second.
Okay, take your pick. All right, Ruth, State Library report.
All right. Okay. So just a few things, several things to announce. Britta Dorsey has accepted the position, my former position as Sport and Development Administrator, and will be onboarding with the State Library on the 11th. We are super excited.
That's great.
I have accepted the position for the coordinator a couple months ago, but have kept interim in there because of some SPD, which is the State Personnel Department machinations. But I did get permission yesterday to just take out the interim, so there is no ambiguity anymore about that. Jeremy Murray, you may or may not have heard, we've talked about this before, but I do want to have it in the record, is the MIS supervisor now, replacing Lynn Floyd, and is the, I'm gonna say the novice Evergreen, Indiana system administrator. He has definitely jumped in with both feet, but is coming up to speed in terms of what that means. Bob Jackson is retiring August the 26th. Right, we're all like, oh no, not Bob. So
By motion, we don't allow that.
yeah. If only that were a possibility. We have had the state extend it several times, and they finally decided that they weren't going to extend it. So he's retiring then, and we will all be sad to see him go. We do have contracts in place to provide support for Jeremy specifically for the system administration role. Right now, as he comes up to speed, they're providing him with training as well as that fallback in case there are things that he can't do. And they've been very responsive in terms of that, and also providing some extended help desk support that I can put in tickets with them if needs be. Yes.
Is Bob Jackson going to be replaced too then?
Yes, he will be replaced.
Okay.
Yes. So if you know anybody that has experience with SQL database administration and queries and is Also fairly good with people and willing to learn some things about the Evergreen, Indiana interfaces, we will be hiring. I don't know anything else other than that. I don't know if it will be remote or if it will be partially remote or what it will be. We did have.
Can I ask something really quick? How long is Equinox, the contract? How long is that?
We have a contract in place with them. We have actually 3 contracts in place with them. One of them is based on hours, and it is essentially 150 hours of help desk support, which is kind of 3rd tier help desk support. If we can't figure it out, we have that, and then as well as the system administration support. It's 150 hours. We've paid for 75 of that, and it goes through the end of 2022. If we don't use, or we only use a portion of that 76 to 150 hours, then that will be billed accordingly for that partial part. The other one is for, let me think about this. It has to do with, I take it back. That was for the system admin and extended development things, so that 150. The help desk support is through the end of this year as well, and that is paid up front, and we've paid for that one. The third one was actually just added a few hours onto our previous statement of work for them, so we've used that up. So we have those 2 things, one to support Jeremy specifically, and that includes training as part of that, and then the other to support kind of more me to go to them is with those things. So he takes care of the servers and I take care of the people.
Okay. Are we thinking 23 and beyond to go forward with that, or has that been discussed? Or
it continues to be an ongoing, it's an ongoing discussion.
okay.
It will depend a lot on how quickly Jeremy comes up to speed, who gets hired for his previous position, which was for a state projects database developer and analyst. And then also who comes in to replace Bob. So we're trying to be as flexible with that as possible, so that we pay for exactly what we need, the least amount of money as possible to get as much support as we need, to not skimp on that at all.
Okay.
So that, that fine balance that we always play.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry for all the questions.
No, please ask questions. That's great. Thank you. And then we did have the deduplication. One thing I want to say about that is that we've had really quality upgrades to the servers that have made that deduplication process much faster now. And so it takes about 2 to 4 hours, where it previously took 1 to 2 days to do that. And so we're going to bake it into every data migration going forward, so that we don't have to have extended or more cataloging freezes for that. In terms of the special projects, we held steady for all of the different categories in here. I did remove the cover art number of uploads. I thought it was good to have there as that was launching, but now it's just kind of part of everyday workflow. So cool, people are uploading stuff, yay. And that piece of software is now included with every release of Evergreen as well. So that was cool to have that paid back into the community. We do have several libraries that are investigating going fine-free. And so if you hear from them and your library is fine-free, if you have some anecdotal or quantitative information for them, that would be really good. And then auto renewals, 82. I'll probably make another push for auto renewals, just because we haven't really said a whole lot about it. That does put us at essentially just below 2/3 participation in that program, which is really good. Man, I did move this, you might have printed this out before I changed the agenda to move it up in here. You ready for me to just go forward with it?
Just go for it.
Okay.
Do it.
We spent money. We're at less than 50% of our budgeted amount. We are 50% of the year way through our year. And I don't have much more to say about that. If you took a look and you have any questions, I would be glad to entertain them, of course. One thing that I guess I will say, and you can see that here, is that what we had budgeted for support services and accessories was 30,000. And we have definitely exceeded that, and we will exceed that even more. I mean, because that's where that comes out for those Equinox contracts. But we are not going to be doing a server refresh this year because we've just actually added 3 new servers. So there will be some more equipment that comes out of that because we are adding a significant amount of RAM to the database server. You've probably experienced or heard somebody say things about the performance. Like yesterday, there was high load on the database server. That's why. There isn't enough RAM in it. I could explain why, but it's probably not great to have it recorded. If we talk after hours at any point, I'll be glad to drive that bus. Anyway, so next month, and well, not next month, next meeting, you will see a much larger negative balance in there. Those contracts with Equinox, they total about $55,000. So we have the money in there to accommodate it. I'm not worried in the least. And so all of that is worth saying. Any questions about any of that? Not all. I can always open it again if somebody has a question. Okay. Go on to the training report. I did not want to put a whole lot in here because with Britta coming on, she and I, of course, will have conversations about what that's going to look like. There will be a full round of training in July as normal for Evergreen fundamental skills. And then I am doing a special training with the regional coordinators from the professional development office so that they are all 4 on the same page as far as how they are responding to questions about Evergreen, Indiana. We have a very knowledgeable advocate in Courtney Brown in terms of Evergreen, Indiana, having worked at Plainfield and now participating, which is great if you happen to be in a region. Paula Newcomb is probably, you may or may not know this, she is one of the biggest cheerleaders for Evergreen, Indiana I have ever seen, who has never used Evergreen, Indiana. But she is out there like pounding the pavement, like saying, okay, your library is struggling with this, you need to think about Evergreen, Indiana. I'm like, all right. But there are some newer regional coordinators who just, they don't have any context whatsoever. So we're gonna all meet together and talk about the governance structure, what the consortium means, and then we're going to also talk about the software itself. There's going to be more focus, however, on the consortium and how it actually works than on the software, because they're not really going to be using the software. I shouldn't say that. One never does know, do they? And then, of course, we'll have more to talk about with Britta coming on. One thing that I did mean to put on here is that this year, rather than an annual conference, the executive committee voted to do regional roundtables. And so I'll be sending out an email, not this week, but probably next week after the Evergreen International Conference is over, to search for volunteer libraries to host these roundtables. And my suggestion is that we think about having 5 of them so that we can get the 4 corners in the central part of the state. And then we can talk about what we actually want to do in terms of the topics. but it would be nice to have the places. And looking at October for when those would occur, or maybe September to November, that kind of maybe broader range, in case people want to go to more than one.
Last time we did those, we encouraged people from this committee to attend too. I know I
Yes,
happened to be the chair or something, and I think I went to all of them. And
I cannot tell you what to do, but I would love to see your faces as much as possible.
Well, and it, I don't know, there was talking like, I don't know, people that live south or something, they were really vocal about wanting,
Yes, it's never gonna hurt to
our
have
support
governance,
there.
actually in the room. It's a great thing. Or people even who, I mean, people who are actively involved right now, but people who have been involved historically. I think that sometimes people tend to go off the committee and think, I'm done, or nobody cares what I say anymore. But you go away taking a lot of institutional knowledge with you and context that's valuable for libraries that may not have that, or staff people who may not have that. So, development report. I was thinking about this and thinking, I tend to put a bunch of stuff in here, and I think that's because where my focus tends to be both on like just the individual libraries and then on development projects, you'll see. So I have a meeting with Adam Bowling for the Change Holds Type project that has been going on since before I actually started at the state library. So since 2019 early, we need that to be fixed. That is something that we have had help desk tickets come through, probably 5 this week, where if we had had this in place, we could have very easily alleviated an issue for our library. So I have a follow-up with him on next week to see exactly where he's at on this. I talked to him last week. I talked to him last week, and we set the next week to say this needs to be put to bed, and he agreed with that. So, and then we will have a deadline based on what he reports back to me on this 22nd. So Evergreen, Indiana did the annual development project survey, and we got the results that closed May the 18th. And I went through and looked at all of the submissions for that. Some of the things that were involved, and I did not do a very good summarization for this month. I will actually at the next meeting, and this is why. Because we also just finished then, I've moved some of those projects into the ECDI because there were analogous projects there, and we can spend more money if we're doing it with ECDI. And their prioritization vote just finished last Wednesday. And so I'm still in the process of tabulating those results. So once that is done, then I can go back and see what's left for Evergreen, Indiana. Going right into, I did add that this morning. As part of that, we have seen throughout the consortium the issue with placing holds on an item that has parts on it. And the first label there says any parts, if there are any that don't have any assigned. It's very ambiguous what it actually means. And I don't know a nicer way to say this. I'm really tired of issues that arise from something that should be fixed. So I had initiated a ticket with Equinox thinking that this was a pretty easy, just change a label in the interface. It's a little bit more convoluted than that. That's fine. They're like, okay, would you like a request for development? I was like, yeah, I would, because we want it fixed. And so there is that part. And then there is also what essentially the project is. It's the creation of 2 library settings, which will thankfully be angularized in our next update. If you spent time in the library settings editor, I know it's still in Dojo and it's a terrible bear, but it'll be a lot easier next time. So the 2 library settings, one of them allows you to turn off title level holds for anything, any bib record that has parts assigned to it. Currently, you can do a title level hold for something that has parts assigned to it. But when you're placing a hold for something that has parts assigned to it, you really have to place a part hold to actually ever get anything. A title level hold would only target something that doesn't have a part, and our policies and procedures say if there's parts on one of the items in that record, then there has to be on all of them. So essentially, you've kind of shot yourself in the foot a little bit. So there would be a library setting to turn that ability off. The other one is another library setting that allows, and it would probably be the consortium, it would be the consortium that would set this, to change that label, or if there are any parts, and we'd probably change it to pick apart, something like that, and select from parts below or something like that, because you can't really remove that. It's a real, not a bug, bit of functionality that still trips people up. So it's like the stair that doesn't have the paint on it that causes everybody to trip. So actually this morning I requested that quote from them. So there's that. Any questions about just these things in terms of development? Because now I'm going to jump into ECDI and there's a lot going on. We're still bug fixing Sprint 4, skipping right over that. We just had contract signed to do the next stage of the Did You Mean OPAC development, which is a multi-word single class that would give you more suggestions if you misspelled a word in there. So that's very exciting. I think it says OPAC development, but it also that also impacts the staff catalog as well, those suggestions. We are waiting on the documentation for phase 1 of sprints A and B for Angular acquisitions. Sprint A is angularization. I don't know that I should be using that word. A rewrite of the ordering interfaces, including the MARC federated search, which right now is still an old Dojo interface, which literally nobody uses that anywhere else in the software. It is very old. Completing the staff catalog integration, which is actually my favorite part of that, and then several bug fixes. And then Sprint B has to do with invoicing and claiming. I'm looking around. So none of the people in this room, I'm gonna look at your faces again, just to remind myself. Julia's library uses acquisitions. I will be continuing to, as soon as I have a hot second, yay, Britta, come quickly, to do more training on acquisitions, because I think it really can be a valuable thing for libraries. It, much like the Evergreen International Conference, which I openly flamed, again, I said that, in 2012, and then learned to love fully acquisitions. I have openly flamed it also, and now have come to love it and appreciate it. So, and see the value in using it in libraries of all sizes. And it will also include several bug fixes. Sprint B is not particularly sexy. It's more, you know, it's stuff that has to be done, but it's not the fun stuff. Honestly, Sprint C is going to be the fun stuff that integrates patron requests and does a lot of cleanup things, because those, in my mind, the patron requests to acquisitions is going to be the thing that can really change the way that patron-driven acquisitions happens. And yeah, so there's that. Oh, and then I have it right there. Sometimes I forget what I have on these slides. And then also an enhanced EDI viewer. EDI is the messaging, the automatic messaging system that goes to your vendor, comes back from your vendor, and gives you essentially the status of your order, and then also allows for automated invoicing. Right now, it's pretty junky. It will be better. Development. You want me to go back, or are you writing something off of there, Jen? Okay. Any other questions about ECDI? I did mention that we just finished our prioritization vote for that. And there were 55 projects that they voted on. So tabulating it's going to take me a day. Thankfully, I have all the weighting systems all ready to go from last year. I just need to tweak them a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna go on. I did hear from Monica, the chair for the cataloging committee. She's not going to be here today because of a conflict in her schedule. We did meet, this month. It was on the 1st, I believe. And it happened. I was there. There was a lot of discussion. These are just kind of the highlights. It was a virtual meeting, and they did discuss keeping those meetings as virtual because of where everybody is at, and the executive committee is really the only one that has to meet in person at least a time. I have to check the bylaws exactly what that is. But the cataloging and the other subcommittees don't have to, so they're going to keep it as virtual. And then possibly do a meeting at the annual conference when there is an annual conference in person. There are going to be new, you might have noticed that's this morning. There was an issue this morning when we had to restart the servers. Yeah, that happened because the new MARC templates or the updated MARC templates were not loaded correctly, but they will be tonight, rest assured. All those problems were solved. So there is a new template that's going in for combo packs, and then all of the other templates that were already there, well, all of them, 75% of them had catalogers look at them, evaluate them, change some things based on some OCLC changes, as well as integrating some more RDA components. And I was very happy to see, I mean, they did a ton of work on that. So those templates will make it easier for people who need to do original cataloging based off of a template to do so. And then the cataloging committee also approved language for the procedures guide that deals with parts that include multiple formats. So if you have a part that has a book and a CD or something like that, and then another part that has, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up here. Parts are a thing, so however you do that. The other thing that I did not add to the slide that Monica asked that I bring up, I checked the email after I made the slides, had to do with scope notes for authorities and for our local thesaurus. So Emma Ritchie from Eckerd Public Library is a machine when it comes to authorities. And she spent time looking, we have a locally established thesaurus that fills some gaps that the Library of Congress thesaurus has, and that's an ongoing thing. And so she then created scope notes for those as well. So we don't have those integrated yet because we're doing an authorities audit because it's a weird interface and we don't really understand it well enough. But we're keeping documentation for all of that, so when it is time, we can actually get those in there correctly. And we already mentioned the deduplication. The content committee hasn't met in a while. The next meeting is in August. And do you want anything? I don't know if there's anything you want to say.
Because I think we met right before the last executive committee meeting.
Right.
I think we said anything we had to say then, so.
And I'll have some things to bring to them at the next meeting that have to do with discovery layers and discovery layers, essentially. We do not, that I know of, have a representative from Patron Services. We're meeting next week. And we'll be talking about a couple different circulation modifiers that already exist. And then the potential to create a new circulation modifier specifically for hotspots. That will, maybe address the fines issue for libraries that are fines free but still want to have fines for hotspots. And there are multiple libraries that are wanting that, so. Okay, I'm going into unfinished business. There's nothing really to vote on here. Maybe there might be, I don't know. I sent out ballots to every library. They went to the director, and they're being accepted through June 30th. We've received 38% of those. Most of them I've received. Are you ignoring? I see what's happening. I literally, as soon as I like tabulate a thing, I don't remember who's done what, and I'm not looking, so don't feel like I don't have capacity in my brain to remember those things.
It's in the file.
It's coming.
It's, yeah, I was gonna say,
I don't know where
are you sure you're gonna like return it?
I'm positive I have it.
Okay.
I'm going to though.
Yeah.
I know where
it is.
I'm gonna tell you to 95% of the ones I've received have been scanned and emailed to me.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So-
I wanted to make sure I got it done.
Must have 50% of the membership participation. If we had 100%, that'd be super cool. One thing has changed since the ballot went out. Lizzie Flora is no longer with us, so
Well,
we'll.
she still is for till next week.
Yeah, but not long enough to like fill a
That's
term,
true.
yeah,
Okay, don't vote for this.
Yeah,
yeah.
don't vote for Lizzie, because she's not gonna be able to do it.
Most of the people, I will say, on the ballot are Sheelans anyway. Well, they still have to get 50% of the vote. So technically we need more than 50% of the membership participation. But and this is something that will come up the Patron Services Committee. I am not entirely sure how, there are several different ways that we could proceed with filling that spot. It can be somebody that is either appointed by the executive committee, would be my assumption, not by the Patron Services Committee. Yeah. So, but it's not really a thing yet. It won't be a thing until the next executive committee meeting. So just, I guess, is anticipation of that. And then just a reminder that if you have not received the ballot, because, and I did get notification from one library that they hadn't received their ballot, then I'll just send an emailed version. One thing I did change this year is that the ballots are all distinct to the library. That's mostly for my record keeping, because I know it's much easier to just like tick boxes than it is to like write your name of your library neatly on a line. And I know, isn't that terrible? But I know it is for me. And so I was like, how about if I just type it? I know how to do a mail merge. So I did. There you go. So y'all have unique ballots. And I am keeping them on file until next year. Just FYI, if there's something, if there needs to be an audit or anything like that, they are available. But I will dispose of them after that. Okay, new business. Reason we're here. The membership fees. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at those? There are two proposals, well, kind of. There are two scenarios. There are technically three scenarios. The first scenario is to do nothing and keep it exactly the way that they are. I do recommend against that. We do see some increased costs associated with everything. But the two scenarios are a 3% increase and then a 5%. I will say, I'm not going to personally recommend the 5%. I mean, if y'all feel comfortable with that, that's one thing, but I'm not going to recommend it. I do recommend the 3%.
This is not talking about adding, this is a different conversation.
This is not the additional tiers. That is a different conversation, and that will be next in the agenda.
Okay, so
Well,
this is just about increasing.
this is just status quo increasing
Got it.
the,
Okay.
with exactly the same tiers that we have right now.
Right, okay. How, okay.
No, you can ask me any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would vote for the 3% just because, you know, there are all the prices of everything has gone up, so, you know, that's just.
And I know that they haven't released the ADGQ yet.
It's gonna be in that ballpark.
Yeah, but I did say, have you heard, put to the ground, ear to the ground is 2 to 4% is what it will be.
Oh,
Yeah,
I heard a little bit more than that.
okay, that's,
It,
Cool.
last year was a little over 4%, it was a little over 4%.
I always like to be conservative, so
I don't think I wanna say on the record what I.
that's fine, you don't need to.
Okay.
Yep. If it makes you confident in the 3% increase, that's all I care about.
Is that a motion, Janet, that you?
Oh, are we there?
Is there discussion,
I'll make a
discussion from
motion.
anybody
I don't know.
online?
I don't know.
What did we do last year?
3%. I believe it was 3% last year.
So, yeah.
I don't know because I wasn't running the meeting in that.
3% sounds about right.
Are we hearing from any of our members that they're squeezed I mean, all libraries are squeezed financially, but are we hearing that that's somehow an impediment? Or, I mean, I can't think of any other ILS that's this cheap.
No.
There is zero other ILS that is this cheap.
These tiers are service population based, right?
They are not. So they are
Okay.
an adjusted expenditure. So it is one of two things. So we do an average of your past 5 years expenditure. Okay? And then your last year's expenditure, and whichever one is less is the thing that then determines what tier you're in.
Got it.
So it's not actually your budget, where this is your
It
budget.
It is not your budget, it is your expenditure. We all know budgets are,
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's a helpful distinction, because
Yeah.
I would be in a different tier.
yes, yes, and that's exactly why, because, I mean, what you are allowed to budget can be significantly more than your actual revenue to spend. But we do the average too, to kind of take out any windfall,
Big
or-
construction project,
yes,
that 1 year.
yes,
Just a little bit technical, does it include your bond fund?
no. It,
Okay.
well, no, it's your operating expenditures.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So if for some reason you were to put things into your operating, which that would be a convoluted thing, don't ever do that, just use a bond fund. But if you did, then it would impact that, but that's what that average is for.
Okay.
Am I talking super loud?
I would second Janet's motion for the 3% increase. I wrote it as a motion, so.
It's written.
I would second.
And there's still, oh,
Unless there's more discussion, of course.
Jennifer Beach, Stuart Scott, she seconded it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
Jennifer beat you to it
Yeah.
because,
Okay.
but the next one, be prepared, because next we're gonna actually talk about the budget. This was the most difficult part though. Did my worship to?
So it sounds like we have a motion and a second to increase the membership fee by 3%. Any more questions or discussions on this? Nothing in the chat.
Cool.
All right, I don't hear any more questions or discussions, so I'll call for a vote. So all those in favor of increasing the 2023 membership fee by 3%, please say aye, or give us a wave or whatever.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And you're kind of trying to keep track of senior waves.
I know, or if anyone's trying to jump on and can't get themselves unmuted. All right, sounds like we have a motion passed, motion carried.
Okay, next is the 2023 budget, which I did prepare, making an assumption that that would pass.
Okay.
So one of the things that I did want to do was do a side-by-side comparison from last year to this year, just so you could see that actual where the line items have shifted, and I didn't know if anybody had any questions about that. Again, there is when you look at equipment and software, that is increased pretty significantly to cover both a just in case in terms of our support. But then one thing that, a thing that we will be taking on is that previously the Indiana State Library was paying for Evergreen Indiana's telephony, meaning the phone notifications that go to your patrons. Evergreen Indiana is going to be paying for that. And I hate to say this number because I'm not entirely sure. It is around $15,000 a year. So, so that is, in my mind, is under that hosting, which we've had in the budget before, but I had tentative in there. Keith had tentative in after I added it. It is no longer tentative. That is real money that we will be spending. But then still enough money in there for server refresh and support services that those can have transfer of allocations and things like that. Another thing that I do want to remind everybody that's listening is that, of course, in public libraries, when you're transferring allocations, there is a huge process. There is a documented process for that if you're going between major categories as opposed to minor categories. There is not that same process with our budget, but we do try to honor it because it makes sense to public librarians. So yeah, that's just a reminder of that exact thing, that we do follow those procedures, although we're not necessarily as bound by them as public libraries are. Janet, you look like you might have a question on this.
I just didn't get it, so I'm just trying to look at it.
Do you want me to make it bigger?
A little bit, yeah, that would be nice. Yeah,
I need a membership and not the budget.
Let me see how this works on this computer. Is it
Sorry, that's a little thing, yeah, I can,
I got paper copies.
I can see
Okay.
it, I'm okay, yeah, thank you.
You're saying that switching between those major categories is technically easier than what we have to do in our.
Significantly.
But
We basically have a big pile of money that we can spend on things.
But that Evergreen Indiana likes to adhere to that same.
We like to have the same conversations that you would have with your library board, yes. Whereas you have to have like a resolution to transfer. We don't have to do those types of things, but we do like to have that conversation if needs be.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You drafted this budget?
I mean, kind of, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm building off of a budget before, yeah, but yeah, I did. And this is based off of that, what the raised amount would be with that 3% increase.
I'll move to accept.
All set. We have a motion and a second to accept the 2023 budget. Any other questions or discussion? I just want to know what $333 in miscellaneous.
It's literally just in there.
Because you didn't have any place else to put it.
Yes. Yeah, it will get moved to something else if we need it to.
Okay.
Yeah. It's your transfer to LERF fund.
Okay, gotcha.
The pizza budget.
It is not the pizza budget.
Oh, pizza for the EC.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the eggs for the conference.
That is annual meeting.
All
It's
right.
the slush fund. I'm so sorry.
We're being audited right now. We're not allowed to say those words.
No, well, that was actually an internal joke from somebody in this room
Yeah.
or on this call
Yeah.
who uses that phrase, and I've said, don't say slush fund ever. And then I just did it with
Yeah.
abandon.
We're not allowed to say that.
No, it is your transfer to LERF
Yes. All right.
for rainy day.
Any other questions or comments? Serious questions or comments on the budget? Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. So all those in favor of accepting the 2023 budget as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed?
And I just want to say Monica just came in
Okay,
as a guest, Monica Riley from Jackson County.
all right.
Actually, as chair of the cataloging committee, not as a guest.
Sounds like we have a motion carried. Okay, where to next, Ruth?
Okay, so the other part of new business does have to do with the additional tiers. And so I have not brought with me, because I don't think that I can yet, work done to expand tiers on the upper portion of our fee structure to accommodate for our larger ones who already exist in, but then larger libraries that may join us going forward. I have talked with Jake and with Stephanie at the State Library about this and gotten feedback, but there needs to be an actual discussion amongst governance for Evergreen, Indiana, as far as that goes. So I wasn't sure in terms of the suggestion was that there be a subcommittee formed that looks at this to evaluate it and get discussion, but how you wanted to form that subcommittee.
So, how many do, I mean, is this what we have now, is 8?
9.
We have, yeah, we have 9 right now.
Nine.
It would go to 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I know is not like, well, it's not confusing because it's all like listed in front of a person if they're looking at it. But because of the vast disparity of that higher end, hi there. But that's okay, you are here for exactly the right moment. When you're talking.
Yes, I vote yes.
Oh, there's not a vote. But we're talking about the additional membership tiers that I am proposing. I think this is just me that is proposing this to accommodate for the higher costs that come with supporting larger libraries, both in migration and ongoing support.
So are you thinking like 8, 9, or 7, 8, 9 would be divided up? Is that kind of?
It's essentially just the highest tier, because
Highest
where
tier.
it's like greater than,
Okay,
there's
Okay.
nothing then that has been split out for that greater than.
okay.
And
okay.
so to split those
So-
out,
So
and
the 9,
yes,
okay.
So those increments of 100,000 would stay the same.
everything that's lower. In
Yeah,
fact,
and then where it starts jumping to
do you want me to throw it
your
up
brackets,
on the
like.
board?
Throw it up on the
Okay. Let me see if I can.
Do you know how many libraries are in that tier 9 currently?
Not offhand, but I have it in my document.
It's right here, 10.
Oh, yes, it is right there.
There's 10 in tier 9.
But one of those
12 in
is
tier 8.
Indiana State Library, so there are technically 9 public libraries.
So,
Yeah, 11 at 1 million, 12 at the 1.5 million, and 10 at the above 1.5 million.
As part of this, what I did is I took every library except for the largest libraries in the state and made this, far-fetched assumption that everybody except for Indy PL and Fort Wayne and I think St. Joe's and Evansville and Lake County wanted to join Evergreen and what their proposed cost would be. Okay, let's see if I can actually access this.
But you've pretty well spent a considerable amount of time already doing some of the research.
A
You
lot,
want you want a
yeah.
subcommittee to be another set of eyes to look at what you've done
100%.
before being presented.
Yeah,
So it doesn't come across as this is what Ruth says it's gonna be.
Right. right.
Yeah.
Well, and that was, I mean, it was also just a proposal to Jake, first of all, to get his eyes on that. And he has some feedback and I've addressed that already. And then Stephanie as well, as Director for Public and Statewide Services at the State Library to get her feedback. So we've kind of gone through that part of it, but now it needs to come to the actual governance for the consortium who really actually makes the decisions.
Sure.
Pardon me while oh yes, this is it. So, and this is essentially, this would be based on what we just voted on. And I haven't actually gone through and fixed all of this right here. So it would be actually 18 tiers. And then you can see what the step is here. So rather than it just being greater than 150 or 1.5 million, then there would be more caps on that. And you can see that these steps even get larger as those annual expenditures go up. So that's, and you can see, it says, this is my working file currently ineligible. Of course, it'd be just as easy to go in and add them in, but I just wanted to, because they're so far above that, I didn't want to, and would be very unlikely. So you can see here too, then this class here, I have some more calculations on this tab per capita that even break out then class A libraries, because that is a hugely disparate class in terms of size of money expended. And so that needs, in my mind, needs to be taken into account as well. And that's where I kind of threw out those libraries that their population size was over 200,000 people. So, and I'm all for this entire committee looking at this. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a subcommittee, or maybe it is a subcommittee that involves everybody on the committee to go through and take a look at this and provide feedback and ask questions, of course, to ask questions and concerns and all of those things. So,
And the motivation for this is
do you want me to say it very bluntly?
fairness, equality, and money.
Yes, it is. It costs more of our resources as a consortium actually to support larger libraries, which on the one hand sounds a little bit nonsensical because they have more staff and more infrastructure and all of those things. And yet it is the reality that we spend more time and we do more intricate things for them, which is great. I mean, it's lovely, but we need to have the resources to actually do that. So.
And there's a big difference between a library that has a $1.5 million in operating expenditures and one that has 6.
80,000.
Yeah.
Well,
So.
and I was,
We're recommending the metric stays, I can't see your screen, but I recommend that, I mean, the metric stays the same. It's based on operating expenditures, not a new form of math. Okay.
That's correct. Let me change this so that you can actually see that though. I'm sorry about that. That fixed for the one thing and not fixed for the
I got it. Okay.
well, the other thing I'm thinking is that maybe for that last tier is actually adding, how many people they serve into that equation, because that's really what your time and money, I mean, and maybe the circulation or your, the items, or, maybe it's not doing this, but just adding, other steps instead of doing 18 steps, do, at tier 9, this and this is included.
The only reason that this is in here is, honestly, it's for simplicity of bookkeeping.
Yeah, I get it. I just was thinking that that might be.
If you have a proposal, I am open for it.
I mean, I don't really have a proposal right this second, but I'm just thinking, but the issue seems to be that, like, I don't know how many we'll just use Porter County since they're the big, the biggest one,
Yeah.
they
And
had,
they would be in a tier 14 then.
they had this amount, but I'm a class A, but I have 44,000 people and they have, I don't know how many they have. For example, so I would be, a tier 10 versus a tier,
Do you know
so,
what tier you're in now, Janet?
yeah, I'm 7, I think,
Cause I think I'm at 8 and 9. I don't know.
so.
I can look up all of
Oh,
those
that's
things.
okay. I know.
I don't
So,
think I'm
somewhere.
quite it.
actually, I think I have all my everything.
Quite it. Hey,
Well, I think the operating budget or operating expenditures is a good way to,
it's a.
It does kind of equalize the
Yeah.
real world scenario.
right,
And one of the reasons that I did go through and figure out the per capita was just to kind of make sure that was in line.
kind of a check and balance just to see if
Yeah,
we're still in line.
Yeah,
Did you say what it was?
I did. I found that it was,
So basically what we're looking for at this time is not necessarily a critique of what Ruth has done,
which I would love to send all of you, if you would like this entire document, I would
but
love
to
to send that to you.
decide how to do a critique of what Ruth has done.
How to do it.
Yeah, right,
And so,
Yes, should
Yeah,
there be a
so-
working meeting in July?
Yeah, or should this be the executive committee? Should we pull in anyone else who may be interested?
Mhm.
the result for this will be better service for those larger libraries. I mean, understand, or equal.
That is the goal,
Yeah.
yes. The result would be more money to actually put towards hopefully reaching that goal.
Right,
I would hope that that would be where we
Well,
get.
and
Yeah.
again, I don't mind paying my fair share, and I don't think anyone else does either, but I think right now with where our tiers stop where they are, which at the time was fine because
Yeah,
we were one of the biggest libraries
Right,
and probably the only one.
we had
us in
women's that's developed how
Newcastle.
many libraries were.
Exactly, that were in that top tier. So now that we're starting to bring in significantly larger libraries, I think.
well, and one of the, go ahead, Scott.
Oh, sorry. I hate to, so this is a political, not a data-driven motivation, but so we bring in Porter, which is fantastic for us. I mean, I think what was it, like a 5% increase in our holdings or something. And then we say at the very next budget cycle, the price isn't as advertised.
So this is the other part of this, is that once this was decided on, this would be rolled out, and there would be time also for not just executive committee comment, there would have to be comment from the general membership as well.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this may be something that would need to be voted on at the annual meeting as part of the Evergreen Council, not the executive committee, but the executive committee proposing to the general council.
Okay.
It could be 3 years before it actually.
It will be 3 years before.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I'm aging out, so I hate to hey, you guys go do some work and I'll just, be on the deck with a margarita.
Evergreen, Indiana.
So just as an
But I think that's an
example,
excellent point, Scott,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
so I'm saying just as an example, so Porter County currently is a tier 9,
Right.
which is about $9,000. And so they would go up to a tier 14, you said, which is how much?
Actually, I don't think, I'm gonna hop over here. And we're gonna just look at Porter County. It would be like 30,000 plus.
Okay, so basically tripling,
Mhm.
but
But I wanna double check. Yeah, tier 14, so 30, yes, but tripling it. Now, I will say, we keep talking about Porter County, that they came in knowing that they were paying significantly less than they felt like was appropriate. And that, which is not to say that this should be dropped on anybody
Right.
like a grenade ever. The other thing that Jake suggested, and I highly recommend, is that this be a rolled out thing so that people in those higher tiers come in at a 50% or 50%
Yeah.
of their expected amount.
We kind of did that when we started the pay.
Yes.
We tiered it.
And that continues as well for new libraries.
That definitely sounds like a subcommittee kind of.
Yes.
It does.
Me.
Yeah, it sounds like the subcommittee that finalizes the look of that, and then also defines the rollout.
Mhm. And I think that there needs to be a subcommittee that does the work. And then there needs to be time for public comment for that, and I'm going to hearken back to the days of the conversation about county libraries, even though maybe that's not the best thing, but there was a proposal that was made. Of course, it went out with the Kernan Shepherd report, and then there was a publicity campaign that went along with that, so that people understand exactly what it is and why it is. Not because we brought on a library that is too big and we realized, oh, now we need to recoup. One of the things that is important to keep in mind that this consortium is never going to be a money maker. And this is the point of your libraries as well, it is to get taxpayer money in your cases and spend it on the behalf of taxpayers. For Evergreen, Indiana, it is to get money from members and spend it on the behalf of those members, never to, and oftentimes we find ways to spend more money, whether it be through LSTA funding or whatever. So we always plan to hopefully lose some money or just break even.
So as we roll this out, if this all goes forward, I understand it, as you said, you want to be able to better serve those large libraries, which come with a lot of unique challenges. For the people who are not the large libraries, who will see an increase in their costs,
They won't.
they won't see any.
It's only in the top 10,
Yeah.
it's tier 9 and above.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
But it would be, I mean, based on your expenditures, I mean, if we're developing API calls and things for third-party vendors or things like that, that is considered support, not just help desk,
Right, so is this involved in more staffing? So
potentially. We don't, I mean, until we have some idea of what money we would have available, it's no way to say that. Is that the goal? 100%. Is to add more staffing to support Evergreen, Indiana.
Yeah.
Or something that equates to that, whether it be contracting with somebody that has, but
do you see this as filling a hole and bringing the hole back up to ground level?
no,
You see this as forward progress?
That's correct. yes. We are at capacity right now in terms of, which is fine. I mean, that's really where we want to be at capacity. But if we are looking to not just bring on other libraries, but to expand some modern things, I guess, for libraries to offer some modern things. And I mentioned discovery layers for the patron services, things like that. They cost money that we've already, I mean, we looked at the budget, that is money bringing in, money going out. And so if we want to add to that, we need to, and for libraries, especially at that higher level who are competing with is not the right word. But I'm gonna stick with it because I can't come up with a better one right now. Where there is an expectation by their patrons or someone else that they're providing certain level of service, and we can facilitate that and also bring some others up at the same point, then that is our goal. We want to offer you the best service possible. We want to make the software a legitimate contender for anybody.
So not that you're competing with them, but you want your product to be competitive.
We want it to work for you in a way that you expect it to work. When you are sitting in a room with your colleagues, that you don't have to hedge and say, well, we haven't quite gotten there yet. Rather to say, we are getting there or we've already done that. Why aren't you participating with us? You can add to the last one if you want or not. That is the goal. That is my personal goal.
Do you have any thought of how this would affect our marketability to future libraries? I mean, I think you'll be more competitive with things you're wanting to offer. I think all that is true. But at least historically, Evergreen was something to go to. They gave you, a real savings in the budget and $6 million,
Well, this is still, and this is one of the things that I did look, this is still very competitive for ILS at these different levels and I'll use Porter County because they're in this high end here of expenditures. This is still way less than they're paying just for their ILS. Now they have ILS, they have much more responsive help desk, they have this collegial community on top of all the other things that I could list out that are, yes, yeah. So, for some libraries, yes, it will definitely impact marketability because there is an impression that you join Evergreen Indiana for free or for very cheap. And it is definitely worth having that conversation. It is still a cheaper alternative with additional incentives. I mean, savings on Info Express, those things. That said, that tends to balance because then your volume for transits and things goes up. So
Evergreen's almost at the point where those have been with it, we've forgotten how much we're saving because we've been using it for some,
right.
that comparison isn't there anymore because you're so used to being.
I know when we
You
joined,
don't know what it's like to go out and.
Right.
I know when we
Shop
joined,
for
we were spending 30,000 plus a year,
That's right.
and now I'm not sure which tier we're in. I don't think I'm in tier 9. I think we're 8.
Can look based on this tier 9. So assuming that this were to go through Morgan County, it would be $12,000 a year. And
Which is still a fraction of what I pay.
same with Greenwood, would be that 9th tier.
There would be the same services for all libraries, right? So we do this, we give ourselves the ability to do these,
Yes.
extra things that
Yes,
we currently can't do well, then everybody benefits.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
Going back, we're still this decision of a work group. Should this be an executive committee thing? I personally think that particularly the libraries, those 10 libraries who are tier 9 should have the ability to participate in the work.
I agree with that.
So I think it should be a work group that extends not just amongst the executive committee, but outside. Yeah, I know. High maintenance, I tell you.
And it's important to say too, that that's not a disparaging thing, that it requires more support. It's a great thing. Because every time we have to do that, that then impacts beneficially everybody
It
that's
does.
never
Yeah.
come across that scenario, who didn't have the time to file a help desk ticket, that didn't even think about, oh, I can get somebody to do this. So that's not disparaging whatsoever. In fact, it's very positive, but it does have requirements. It's the opposite of disparaging, although I guess it does sound that way. Oh, you need more help. Well, not really. You need different types of help.
So, Krista, are you going off? I am.
So is Jennifer.
So, yeah.
But good point to note that she would be in the tier and part of the sub. Yeah.
I'd be happy to be part of the work group, so.
Yeah. Well, sounds like we should. be part
It
of
sounds
it.
like Cheryl. I think we need to call out, but I think we really need direct communication, particularly to the directors of those 10 libraries who are in tier 9 right now, saying this, you are the ones being affected by this, so if you want to say it, you better provide someone for this work group.
So can you and I, Krista, because
Yeah.
you are the chair and will be the chair through August, because I know, right?
August?
Yes, remember, remember the ballot had to go out later because of.
Oh, yeah, because I have to come to the August meeting.
libraries. Yeah.
Do I have to go?
Wait, do I go through August too?
Yes, yes. There's literally nobody to take your
No,
place.
I'm down with that. That's great. I mean,
When does that happen?
The August.
Oh, the
committee?
August meeting in.
August 9th.
Yeah, August.
but I do seriously think that the subcommittee is a good idea to really look at this from all angles and think about impacts.
So that said, Krista, because
Is
you
there
are
a motion or
full
something?
chair. Not yet, we're working on it.
Okay.
Green's birthday, by the way. I don't know where that's on my phone, but just, you know.
Motion to form a subcommittee.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll make a motion to form a subcommittee to investigate tier levels,
additional tier.
additional
levels.
tier levels. And that subcommittee include members outside of the executive committee.
And members of the executive committee who are so willing. Is that okay to do that?
Whatever you want.
Should we think about other types of representation in that
Yes.
committee as well? I think it's wise to include as many of the tier 9 that want to participate. Should we think about, I don't know if we want only, let's say, the tier 9.
I'm okay with it being an open call.
I think it should be an open call,
Okay.
but I think we should extend a
Make sure.
particular invitation
Absolutely.
to
Make sure
those
it's there.
in tier 9.
Yeah.
Make sure they really understand that, hey, this is
Mhm.
it's down the road and you probably want to be here. But yeah, I'm absolutely open to the Odin Wingleplex sending a representative and, you know.
Okay,
You just love saying Odin.
I love saying
I do
Odin.
too. It's just fun to say it.
So it can just be a motion to form a subcommittee.
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know where we're going here, people.
Did somebody
You
say
and I
something?
collaborate then on actually,
We got a motion, but no second. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll get that.
I can tell you who it actually is if you want to reach out to them and
Sure.
extend the invitation. Are you okay with that?
Sure, fine.
I think it's more appropriate for you to do it than for me to do it.
Like, and since, you know, like, it'll be my last meeting, I'll be like, all right, don't blame me. Yeah, so it will, the subcommittee will come back to the executive committee with a recommendation, and some future executive committee will actually vote on it and do the implementation.
Possibly, or we'll recommend it to the council, library council, to be voted on at the annual meeting.
Or that, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or.
We let you know the results of the election, but just.
It closes on July the 30th. I will,
July 30th.
no, June 30th. I'm sorry.
So
I get my JU month wrong.
So
I'm
if
sorry.
they're on the committee, wouldn't they be able to come to August?
They have to actually go through the process. They can come to August,
Yeah.
but they're not actually on the committee until the end of that meeting.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But you I don't remember that because I always thought, I thought
Well, we
August was
always-
always the
it was-
first meeting of the new person.
Used
Yes,
to.
but we're a
little bit behind.
Yeah,
We are-
Maybe
we are-
maybe the new people would come to this meeting.
Yes.
Right,
And it would be the last meeting for lame ducks like
Right.
me.
uh-huh.
It's because there has to
They would
be,
take it over in August.
there has to be a 30-day vote,
Right.
and the
Right.
annual meeting wasn't held until
Right.
May the 23rd.
Yeah.
So
So we're meeting, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. Maybe if you tell those tier 9 libraries that there's $333 for pizza,
Yeah.
that might be.
Didn't even spend it on pizza, but there is $333 for pizza.
I can spend $33 on pizza, but I would feel really bad about it. Maybe 150 on breadsticks. Super fancy, look all over the picture. Anyway, was there a vote?
We have not yet had a vote, so we have a motion to form a work group, we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any- Motion carried. Whew. Is that it, Bruce?
I don't really know anymore.
I think so.
I'm gonna close
I'm
this
to,
and get
I'm
back
to the end of my agenda here.
Oh.
Next meeting,
and share that.
August 9th, fine.
I did have another announcement.
Oh.
I can't remember.
Okay, well, I'll make this announcement. So where are we going to decide now, location and method, or?
That was the other thing, actually, thank you. That was the
Okay.
thing.
We can always meet at my place, I don't mind. I've got a fancy owl camera and it's really good for doing private meetings.
That would be amazing. I'd love to see that. Does anybody else have any suggestions, or are you good with meeting at Morgan County Public Library? In Morgantown or in Martinsville?
But in Martinsville, we did the Martinsville Library, Green Grass, so southwest corner in the southwest donut county.
Oh, the donut.
Yes. I don't even have it on here because I thought it would be.
Kind of a squircle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a square donut.
Executive committee. My place.
When you said my place, I was like, we're gonna have it on the farm. That's cool.
Used to be a bar called My Place. It's still around.
I think that there is one in Indianapolis. It's called That Place.
I've been to that place. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Whew. Second.
Here.
Good job.
Non-debatable motion. All rise. We're done.